Hello, my name is Stephanie Sanders, and I will be talking about characteristics of ASD. And so I would like to start off with cognitive characteristics that you will see in individuals with autism spectrum disorder. And these are deficits in the areas of attention, working memory, and sequencing. And so I would like to also point out that cognitively, no two children with autism are the same, just because they have different levels of degree of different characteristics that you will see and that are observed in every individual is different. And so that is why it's so important to understand these characteristics in understanding individuals with autism. Also, autism has neurological characteristics because it is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It comes under the category of pervasive development disorder, which is severe impairment, including social and communication skills. So some other disorders that are included in PDD are autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's disorder, childhood disintegrative disorder, Rett disorder, and PDD not otherwise specified, which is also known as PDD-NOS. And so another thing to note is that there are a high number of individuals with ASD that will develop some other neurological characteristics and disorders. They have a higher involvement in some of these, like epilepsy and other characteristics with neurological disorders. I will also talk about behavioral and sensory characteristics. So some of these include rigidity, which is a struggle with change or routine. They are very oriented in routines and just knowing what's going to happen next. And so for things that are out of the blue or things that are not expected and just change on them, that can be very difficult. So a lot of times, if something is going to be different in their daily routine, it should be brought up before the situation occurs in order to help ease that individual with autism through the expected scenario, such as going to a doctor's office, not knowing what to expect, or going to the dentist. I had some students even with getting their hair cut, different things like that that are just out of the norm for them. And even a haircut can be very difficult for some, especially if they have tactile and sensory needs, which I will discuss in just a little bit. Another one is repetitive behavior or speech. So this type of behavior can include things like jumping, repetitive flapping, rocking back and forth, or different speech phrases or words that might be repeated as well. Another characteristic to note is being preoccupied with topics of their own interest. So I had a student that was really into all things computer. And so anytime there was something about technology or computers, he knew all about it and how to work it, and he would teach me new things on the computer. However, when asked to tell his favorite TV show or his favorite color or things that were an opinion and not a fact, that was very hard for him to answer with that sort of thing. Another thing is that they could be hyper or hypostimulated to sensory needs. So there are a lot of sensory needs with individuals with autism. Some of them include tactile materials, such as even what they eat, what they feel. A lot of them have certain food sensitivities and things that they will eat every day. I had one student who would only eat Cheez-Its. That was his meal, and he would crunch it up because of the tactile. And so that was his lunch every day. So it can create deficits in other areas if that's the only thing they're eating for lunch. So we had to start incorporating ways to engage and bring other foods just to try to the child so that they wouldn't keep having that deficit in that certain food area. Some other sensitivities to sensory needs are even clothing, just the tags or things like that we wouldn't normally think about tags, and just having that tagless option to shirts and things like that. Lighting, certain lights can really set off an individual with autism because they are very visual with how they perceive things. Another one is noise. I had a child with autism who would wear headphones in very loud areas or areas where he knew that there would be a lot of people, things like that. So sounds and noise can also be a big thing for individuals with autism to deal with. And some communication and language characteristics. So this is a main characteristic of autism, is just with communication, such as verbal, which includes the expressive and the reciprocity, such as just being able to be engaging in conversation and just responding to their peers. Also responding to their own name and understanding vocabulary, and that there are multiple meanings to words, and just a lot of times they can be very fact-based, and opinions and figurative language and jokes are very hard to understand for them. So that is another social situation to have to teach them about, is just jokes and understanding their peers. Also, just engaging with their peers in peer relationships, understanding what the peer is feeling when they're upset or when they're happy, wanting to engage in that conversation piece. And then another one is nonverbal cues. So a lot of times they can be considered in their own world in different scenarios, and so understanding nonverbal cues, especially if it's not spoken, is very difficult, such as understanding why is someone laughing, why are they smiling, why is there a frown on that person's face, and just understanding those social situations with their peers and other adults. And then the last characteristic is social characteristics. So this is including cooperative play with peers. Interaction with peers in general is very difficult, even engaging and keeping friends. So a lot of times they will be considered isolated, or they like to be by themselves and just doing that preoccupied topic of interest, where they will just, talk about one certain thing all day, which can be hard for other peers who don't understand what autism is, and engaging with them and just being able to teach these behaviors and how to interact with them appropriately. Another one is just voice and facial expressions. So understanding their peers and what facial expressions mean, such as the laugh or the smile or crying, different things like that, and just the tone of voice that you might have, so they won't notice different things like, if I get loud, that means I want your attention. If I'm quiet, that means we need to be quiet for a reason, or even in their own voice. A lot of times they can be considered robot-like or monotone in their expression, and it's just the way they are communicating. Another one is just having that lack of interest in other topics that are not their preferred topic. I had lots of students that are just engaged in different things, so it is very hard to find that common thing to connect them all. So it's very important to have them associate with groups and get to know their peers that way. Another one is conversational talking. So just understanding, okay, this is when I ask a question. This is when you ask me a question and I respond with the appropriate answer. So this is where I had a student who she wouldn't know or understand if someone was asking a question, what she was supposed to respond with. So we had to really work on those social stories and things like that. And then also just being empathetic and understanding perspectives other than their own. So this is where those social stories and their social cues come in, and just understanding, okay, when my friend is upset, I can say this, or if they are happy, I can say this, or this is appropriate and this is not. And so this is very big for individuals with autism, is just to have that learned behavior and that learned social skill when they grow up, and just even into the high school and middle school and post transitioning into adulthood. These are just very good characteristics to be able to teach the kids with autism. So these were some of my references that I used while working on this presentation on characteristics of autism, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.